Hello, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome to another video. If you are new to this channel, my name is Frank Zhu, and I'm a college professor teaching sociology, history, and philosophy. I'm also an award-winning landscape photographer. When I first visited the Louvre Museum in Paris many years ago, one of the most impressive exhibits I saw was a massive finger-shaped black stone pillar, about 2¼ meters high. Standing in front of it, I felt so small, which of course was the intention of the people who made it. On the top is a detailed relief image of two figures. The lower portion of the pillar was inscribed with some ancient texts that I couldn't read, although I knew what it was about. Everything is beautifully and clearly cut, an impressive combination of both image and text. I remember I stood in front of it for quite a while, marveling at this masterpiece of art and contemplating on its significance in human history. What I saw was the famous Hammurabi stele, made by the Babylonians in the mid-18th century BCE. The two figures on the top are King Hammurabi, who is standing in front of the sun god Shamash, who is handing to Hammurabi a ring and a rod, which are symbols of power and authority. King Hammurabi was the sixth king of the old Babylonian Empire, which lasted from approximately 1894 to 1595 BCE. The empire emerged within the Mesopotamian civilization, the earliest known human civilization centered in modern-day Iraq. During the reign of King Hammurabi, the empire united neighboring city-states into a vast, unified state that spanned from the Persian Gulf to parts of modern-day Syria. Under him, the empire was transformed into a cultural and political powerhouse. However, King Hammurabi is nowadays best remembered not for his role in expanding the empire, but for establishing a set of laws known as the Code of Hammurabi. The code was written in the cuneiform writing, which was the first writing system that was used for over 3,000 years before it died out in the 1st century CE. It is this code in cuneiform writing that is carved onto the black stone stele which I saw in the Louvre Museum and which set me thinking about a lot of things. The stele was discovered by a group of French archaeologists in the city of Susa in modern-day Iran in 1901. It had probably been brought to Susa by an army that invaded Babylon and taken back home as war treasure. The French archaeologists brought it to France for study and display. It has been there at the Louvre since then. The stele is one of the most iconic monuments of the ancient times. The text, engraved around 1750 BCE, begins with a prologue in which Hammurabi refers to himself in the first-person voice to establish his authority, stating his achievements and virtues as a king of justice. For example, he said, "I made the name of Babylon famous." Such self-promotion is also reflected by the massive size of the stele that dwarfs human beings, and the relief image of Hammurabi himself and the god of sun being together on the top of the stele. All of these were meant to show that Hammurabi was the ideal king, directly authorized by gods, rather than simply a conqueror. Of course, people in modern times know that most of the laws didn't originate from Hammurabi. The code was based on laws that had been already used for centuries in the city-state of Sumer. With that said, the Hammurabi Code is one of the earliest and most comprehensive legal systems. But the code is not a legal code in the modern sense of the term. Instead, it is a collection of 282 case laws, which are organized in chapters related to different areas, covering most sectors of the Babylonian society, ranging from family law to professional contracts, trade and labor, and administration. The Hammurabi Code provides some of the earliest examples of the doctrine of the laws of retribution. The famous phrase, "an eye for an eye," that we modern people are so familiar with, actually comes from the Hammurabi Code, which is a major feature of the code. Another feature is that the 282 laws are all written in if-then form. For example, one law says, "If a man put out the eye of another man, then his eye shall be put out." But the laws did not treat everyone equally. The code established 3 social classes: the upper class, the middle class, and enslaved people, each class having certain rights and obligations. Penalties for crimes were based both on the nature of the offense and on the social class of the offender. Overall, punishments were very harsh, even cruel by modern standards. For example, death was the penalty for 25 crimes, including stealing from a temple or helping an enslaved person escape. When it comes to family law, the code includes rules for divorce, adoption, and the custody of children. It even has rules regarding adultery and rape. Within the family, fathers enjoyed the dominant role, who held unlimited control over the lives of his children until they married. Marriages were arranged by parents. The Hammurabi Code is significant historically. It was one of the earliest and most comprehensive legal systems that was intended for public use. Because it was set up in a public place, everyone was expected to know the laws and the consequences for breaking them. Its public display demonstrates that, unlike many rulers in ancient times, Hammurabi was not only capable but also very self-confident and enlightened, relying not on arbitrary decisions but a transparent, consistent system to rule a big empire, where every city used the same code. The transparency and consistency helped to unify the empire by making clear that all its people had to follow the same laws. Such a predictable legal system that relied on rule of law rather than rule of man has had a big impact on Western philosophy and made huge contributions to Western legal systems. First, it is one of the earliest attempts to establish social justice and maintain public order through a legal system that was made known and available to everyone. When laws are codified, meaning that they are written down with punishments matching crimes, they become transparent and easily understandable by the public. By carving 282 laws onto a stela that was placed in public, Hammurabi established that laws should be written, published, and accessible rather than hidden or arbitrary by rulers at random. In doing so, he expressed his principle that laws should be objective, public, and binding. The code reflects the wishes of a king who wanted to ensure that anyone, not just the rich and powerful, but even the poor, could obtain justice. Secondly, for the first time, Hammurabi established the principle of proportional justice, meaning that punishments must correspond to the severity of a crime to ensure fairness. It shifted justice from private vengeance to state-regulated accountability. Although literal physical retaliation is largely rejected by modern laws, the underlying principle of an eye for an eye still influences the criminal justice nowadays. Thirdly, the Hammurabi Code emphasized the concept of presumption of innocence. It is one of the earliest legal systems that insisted that an accused person is innocent until proven guilty, requiring evidence and testimony in court. Finally, the Hammurabi Code is quite comprehensive in terms of social regulation. It formalized business practices, including written contracts, witnesses, and legal responsibilities for professionals such as builders, doctors, etc., similar to modern consumer protection and professional liability law. It highlights the state's duty to regulate commerce, property rights, domestic relations, including the protection of widows and orphans. To conclude this video, the Hammurabi Code was significant in its role to unify the Babylonian Empire and maintain social order. It also served the purpose of emphasizing Hammurabi's reputation as a king of justice. Most of all, it moved law away from personal vengeance toward state-administered justice, and thus setting a precedence which influenced later legal codes in the West. King Hammurabi is so famous and so important that he is even commemorated as one of the marble relief portraits of historical figures in the U.S. House of Representatives chamber in Washington, D.C. Well, I think that is all for today's video. As always, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.